Hey everyone, we are LDG. I'm Brooks.
I'm Kitty.
And I am Lizzy.
And we are lucky enough to be joined by Tim Ferry of Never Board Games. Talking about your project that's coming up really soon, actually, Old Salt. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I am nervously excited for it.
Well, don't be nervous because we are absolutely obsessed with your games. That's why we hooked you into doing this.
Absolutely huge fans of the game. Couldn't believe how much fun we had even on TTS the first time we played it.
Absolutely.
That is a tricky software.
We actually did a top 10 and it actually became one of Kitty's. So
and I'm hard to crack.
She's very hard to crack.
We just all of these games from like 2014 are like, oh my god. So
Got it on my first try.
Exactly. Okay.
No, that was a huge honor to be on that top 10. I really appreciated that. That was made my day and week for that matter.
I mean, honestly, and that's one of the main reasons we wanted to set this up. We actually honestly really believe in the game. I'm not into war games. I do not like them. And I actually told you that. We were lucky enough to do the TTS gameplay with you, and I was very not sure of how the experience was going to be. It was one of the funnest playthroughs I'd had in a very long time.
I appreciate that.
It's one of my very favorite games. So it really took me by surprise because there's a lot to it, which we're going to get into once we get started.
absolutely.
So I want to tell everybody the story of how you came to Old Salt, because one of our favorite stories is actually that it wasn't originally named that, and it's an incredible name.
Yeah, so the story of Fleet Commander, which is just... It's a game, so I can't speak too badly on it, but I'm really thankful that it was already taken. Because Old Salt is it's such a good name, so much better. So it originally started from D&D. I homebrewed a campaign where I was like fleshing out everything, like 3 years in advance. And this was like my first real campaign, so I didn't know that we were all going to drop off at level 8 and everyone's going to do other stuff and all. I would have a year's worth of material that would never be used. But I was like, the end of this whole thing is going to be 100 naval ships versus 100 naval ships, like one whole country versus another country, and it's going to be epic. And then I listened to these D&D podcasters that it was Game Master Studios from, I don't know if they're active still, but I always loved them and their advice was incredible. But they were like, you could do this, this, and this. And none of those options really like fit for what I wanted to do, because you'd either have the battle be like white noise in the background, or they would have like little micro interactions forever. So I was like, that doesn't really fix it. So I started making a new system that was a hybrid of D&D. So I had like ability class and health points and small abilities on the ships. But then the more I fleshed it out, the more it was just its own standalone system. And then the campaign died. And I was like, well, I guess we're going to try to use this. So I brought it to one of the board game. I had a group of, it was me, Travis, Alex, and my cousin Parker. And we used to play Pandemic Campaign Season 1. We were trash at that game, by the way.
That's his favorite series.
It was a lot of fun, but we were horrible. We did not find a single person. You know how you're supposed to do the missing persons?
Oh, spoiler warning.
We're going to dedicate... Oh, sorry, that's on me. That's on me. But everything to finding these people, and they'd just be like missing, couldn't find them.
Oh.
Gosh, so, devastating. But sometimes we bring other games, and I brought my little like patchwork grid paper, and we played a very early version of this game. And I was like, "What do you guys think? Is this a thing?" And they're like, "It's actually not bad." So I just kept working on it, and eventually came up with a better actual playtest, and then brought to a game studio, not a game studio, game store, and played it with some people, and they're like, this has potential. You're not ready, obviously, but it's got potential. And so then I just kept on fleshing it out from there, and eventually came up with Old Salt with a old business partner, Tony, but he had to split off to do other stuff. He was super busy, but we split off, and he came up with Old Salt, and I was like, that's sweet. Mind if I keep it?
I think that's awesome because it filled a little corner of the market that there really isn't a ton. I mean, there's naval stuff and there's war games, and it feels so different. So we're really excited about it.
That is good, especially with how many games there are. I was always worried, like, there's probably 10 others like this. But so far, I haven't really seen an exact copy.
We have an embarrassing amount of games between the two of us. And we still haven't seen anything like it yet. So
perfect.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your challenges that you faced through the development process? Like, how did balancing work and other things like that?
Yeah, I would say the hardest thing that I had to go through was asking people to play my game in person. So like pre-COVID, I went to that game store and I was like, hey guys, you all look like you're having a blast with this game that's published. Do you want to spend the next hour playing my game that I've never played with anyone ever before? And just like a childish thumbs up. That was terrifying. I sat there for like 30 minutes waiting for them to finish their game. They were just staring at me like, what is this guy doing?
Excited. I've been all over that. I've been like, yeah.
They were so nice though. They were very kind, most kind people. And I still have their like playtest sheets from way back when, but that was terrifying. That was hard. Balancing wise, it really wasn't ever a struggle just because people would be like, this feels broken. And I'd be like, all right, let's just flex one teeny tiny thing and see if it worked. And then just kind of repeat that 1,000 times. But asking people is just terrifying.
Understandably.
At this point, though, honestly, you shouldn't be terrified at all because it is really exciting, and we're kind of hard on games. We really only cover what we really like so far or what really speaks to us in different ways. So it really is something special, honestly, that other games haven't fulfilled for us. So yeah.
I love that. That's good.
Especially since we're actually not Liz quite as much. We're trying to reel her in, but we're getting into RPGs more. So yeah, we felt the influence in there too. So
yes,
definitely did. Especially the first time we played with you on TTS, it felt like even though we were playing, like a war game, strategy, etc., it also felt like we were playing an RPG. Like we had this epic story to tell about all of our factions and our interactions.
Yes.
My story to tell was that I incited infighting so that I could win.
Yeah, he's good at that.
As that meme goes, like no regrets, and he like holds the tattoo. Not even a letter, buddy.
Exactly.
So when we were playing, I was like thinking to myself, like Matt Mercer, move over. Like you seem like a really great DM. So do you have any advice for maybe some new DMs or people new to RPGs?
Oh goodness. I would say side quick like disclaimer. I've only homebrewed and like led like 3 campaigns, and they've all split off after like level 8 or 9. So I don't have a lot of experience, but I would say try to appease the characters without letting them like run the table, because like everyone's trying to have fun, but you don't want them to run your whole world, because then it's not really D&D, and it's more like just like a story time of them telling it. But also don't railroad. That's huge. That took me a bit to learn. Railroading is not ideal.
Yeah, I actually am our DM for we do Mothership. So
yes.
Which is very, very cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, that was nerve-wracking stuff. I'm like, okay, I have to control these feral cats, making them have fun, while also not. You know how you can plan an entire thing, and then they they want to go like open that door that you didn't even plan for that was set dressing.
I forgot that was a door.
Every time you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I said that 8 campaigns ago. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's a learning curve.
Yeah. How do you prepare for them? How do you prepare for your sessions?
So what I'll do is I usually do like a branching tree. So I have like the core story that we started with before, with a few reminders of points of interest from the last game, and then I give a few options, and then I let those options have a few options,
Nice.
And then I'll circle some of the branches that I'll just recycle on other branches if they choose this branch. So they don't have as much freedom as they think they do.
And just really quickly as well, beyond D&D, it's like there's several mechanics in this game sort of like fused together. So were there any other tabletop games or anything that you did find a little bit of inspiration in to sort of jumpstart into your own mechanics and your own gameplay?
The islands, I took a little bit of inspiration from Risk. Of if you like control a territory, you get a reward, and so that was an incentive. So like way back when, it was no islands, just a blank ocean, and players just team deathmatch style killed each other. And they're like, this is okay, but we could use some more like objective. And I was like, okay. And so I looked at other games. I was like, this would be solid. And so I added the islands, evenly displaced them for symmetry. And then if you control that, you get bonus income, which was my kind of slight steal of risk of like, if you control this continent, you get bonus income of reinforcements.
That's interesting because I couldn't even imagine it without that mechanic.
Right.
This is where playtesters come in. 90% of this game is playtesters.
I mean, that's fantastic because you can see on some of our playthroughs, we've actually recorded a playthrough of it.
Yes.
When it gets closer to your campaign, but Liz was like staunchly defending her corner of her islands, and you know, Kitty had this swap that she was pretending to be passive, but she was
pretending to be. I love that.
So interesting. So speaking of the playtest process, how was that transition from your like play tour that you were doing to all TTS when the pandemic hit? That was probably, you were like, oh, now.
Yeah. Oh boy, it was simultaneously a nightmare and a massive blessing. Yeah. So I had launched my Flat-Stanley tour, which, quick sidebar, do you guys know what Flat-Stanley is?
Never heard of that term before.
It's a Midwest. I think it's a Midwest thing.
Well, I'm from Ohio, and I still haven't heard of it.
I'm from Ohio.
Okay, so maybe it's an Iowa thing. Maybe it's an Iowa thing. So when I was in elementary school, there was a book called Flat-Stanley, and you like first grade, you would take a Flat-Stanley drawing, and one of the kids would take it home over the weekend and go to the mall, go to the park, and then they draw about their experience with it, and then they take it back to class, tell about it.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Yeah, and so all the classmates would do it. They would all take Flat-Stanley home at one point during the school year, and they would talk about their experiences. And by the end of it, Flat-Stanley was ruined. He was just coffee stains, like ripped in half and taped together, like
probably
nearly like headless Nick.
Childhood comfort blanket.
Yeah, pretty much. Somebody's like, I had a sleepover with Flat-Stanley, and my mom had to make a new one because he's gone. It's just wild stuff. But so I did a Flat-Stanley tour of Old Salt, where I was sending Old Salt to anyone and everyone that was like a pretty big fan of it 2 years ago. And I was going to have it be a 12-week campaign to lead up to Kickstarter. And I was not ready for Kickstarter, but I was trying to just like, let's do it. We are going to have this. And then COVID hit, and I had to stop the Flat-Stanley tour. And from there, I was like, I can't launch Kickstarter, even though it was like the biggest blessing to not be able to launch the Kickstarter because I was terrified. So it was a huge blessing that happened. But playtesting wise, it took 4 months to learn how to actually get everything on TTS. And I tried the other one, Tabletopia. That is not user friendly for me. I did not like that. But
yeah, we don't like either of them very much. But if you like TTS,
yeah.
But you were a wizard at it. I mean, during our playthrough, and it still made it so that it felt like we were, you know, communally playing it, talking about it. I mean, we went over different aspects of it, and you asked what we thought and things like that. I remember one of the things we spoke about, which Liz will pick up here in a second. We did talk about the like diversity of the characters.
Yes.
We find that when it comes to fantasy settings or things inspired by D&D or a lot of other RPGs, because so much fantasy is rooted in white or white appearing characters, that it just accidentally becomes the norm.
Yeah.
It's something we discussed, so Liz is going to pick up.
Yeah, we were just wondering, cause like you had talked about changing some of the artwork throughout that. We were just wondering how that process has been coming along, if you've run into any issues with that, and how that process actually goes.
Yeah, true. No, I loved that you guys brought this up in the playtest, because I was like, you're right. That's valid. I didn't even think about it. So that was fantastic, and I'm really glad you guys brought that up. So for now, what I was originally planning to do since about probably a week prior, but I was planning on having it be social unlocks, so like activities to do that, and then we'd get to the next tier, and then that would unlock alternate art for the faction, and then that was going to be included into the base game. Either way, I was going to have it done, but I was trying to give like cool unlocks for them to feel like they did it, even though it's going to happen either way. Since probably a week ago, I was like, I'm just going to foot the bill early on and make this change now, and then I'm going to have those social activities be primarily pretty much only faction-specific missions. So that'll be still a lot of fun to have those unlocked. But I'm going to have the actual art not unlocked, but done and modified to actually fit the bill before the Kickstarter actually goes.
I think that's great because a lot of times there's that line where the social interaction aspect of it is them getting a say, but then again, if it's an unlock, it feels different than if it's originally in it. So that's why it's great that you've chosen that.
Yeah.
Are you just going to do like flip sides? Because that'd be great just to have alternates of different stuff.
I was originally thinking flip side, but now I think I might just have the alternate art be the primary art, just because the backside could be a great player aid. If you remember, the back of the rule book was like a player aid. Everyone's been saying they want a player aid. So I was like, all right, fine. Because I was trying to be, it was like my designer way of being cheap, of just being like, your player aid's on the back of the rule book. But
I mean, honestly, we liked it.
Yeah,
we just laid the rule book there. But I mean, that would be great too to have. We always like a reference, whether it's on the rule book or on the back of a card. We just like having one. Because all the ships have different stuff, so it's important.
Yes, there's a lot of information to keep. But yeah, so I think I might just do the revised art primarily just on the face of the A face, and then the B face will be player aid / ship information.
Fantastic. That's great.
Awesome.
I think it's great to kind of make a positive choice like that, because what it does is we always say this, it's our shtick, but seeing yourself being represented in something you love is important. It just is.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your passion. And I know we're all big nerds here, but when we see ourselves represented in what we play, because we have a lot of women, people of color, a lot of queer people in our gaming group, so it's really important for us to kind of see ourselves in.
Definitely.
So yeah.
I mean, it also helps with immersion too.
Yeah.
All of that. And that's what I want.
So Liz, I know you wanted to ask a little more about art, because this game is so beautiful.
Yes, like how, because the cover art is just, like, you can see that's on our, page.
Oh,
yeah, well, actually, it's like right there.
I forgot that I was flipped.
Yeah, same. But it's such like dark and mystic. Like, what was the concept behind that?
Yeah, Seafall was a huge inspiration for it. I loved the island, I loved the ship, and I was like, the whole part of this is like you seize an island and someone's probably trying to defend it. So that was a major part of it. And I was like, I really like the idea of dusk and just like a midnight raid. Like they're just strolling in, everyone's about to go to sleep and they're going to get the jump on them. I loved that concept. I was like, I would love to be in that situation where like I'm about to get wrecked at 2 a.m. But that was most of it. It was Seafall was a huge inspiration, and then I was like, we got to have it be nighttime for like drama.
Yeah, it's dark and gritty. It's really cool. We love the art.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer did amazing. She is awesome.
Yeah, it is beautiful and stunning, and I love it.
Thank you. Thanks.
And so with the artwork, there's great artwork with the factions as well, and now maybe even more with the different artwork that you've come up with since. So can you talk maybe a little bit more about faction development, how that worked? There's so many different options. Maybe if one felt really overpowered at the beginning, maybe how you worked with that.
Yep. The Forgotten used to be the most broken faction in the game.
Oh no.
And then from there, we nerfed them to the ground. And then the Barbarians were the most broken. They used to have a ramming ability, which is why their old statement was like, something's in our way, smash it. And they would just run into people, wreck them. Like a Leviathan has 8 hit points, and they would take down a Leviathan each turn, just no problem. I was like, this is a nightmare. This is broke. So balancing factions or like figuring out factions was time consuming, but well worth it. I think at this point, they feel really balanced. Like in the last 3 months, we've made one patch for the bootleggers raid ability, which out of all of the abilities, I didn't realize that was the one that could be spammed a lot and have a problem, but it makes sense in hindsight. So we modified it, fixed it. But
that's funny. That's one of the Bootleggers is one of the only ones we haven't played a lot. We've done a lot of versions with the other ones, but
that's we played us back in our first play.
Back in our first one, but I mean, I played very manipulatively.
You did.
I just kind of sat back and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And
It's
then,
like, wait, are you really a bootlegger? Like a priest or something?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys play it with the Mast system by chance? Or there was an update a while ago where instead of just being able to take an island for like your cost.
Yes, you did, yes.
Okay.
Will you pay a Mast?
Yes. Yeah.
We like that. We think that balanced it because it made it so that you couldn't just stack up on money.
And just be so low key that
because one of my early gameplays with Kitty is I just didn't get a big fleet and I made sure I had a lot of money, and then I just took an island because I had enough money. So
yeah. The person who inspired that patch won in 2 rounds.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he bought 2 Leviathans and had 18 gold. And he just sailed straight towards the open island, and one of them was an owned island, but he just threw gold at the guy's face. He's like, here you go.
Wow.
Keep the change, you filthy animal, pretty much. So I was like, we are going to fix this. I like that Mast, though, because then you have the passive player, or if you go to the risk idea of like the Australian strat, you just sit in Australia for 2 hours, and then you finally come back with something and you're like, all right, let's play, and then you just unleash across the world. I didn't like that. So you can't be passive. You gotta,
also kind of thematic, kind of like you're not only paying, but you're also showing them proof. Look, I'm conquering things. I'm also. I obviously have the clout to take this.
Yeah, I got your commander's flag or something like that.
Trust me.
Yeah. I'm not the bad guy. He was.
Yeah, and I overpowered him.
Yeah, or like Mega Mind when he's like, I wouldn't say I'm the good guy, more like you're under new management.
Exactly.
Yeah. But going back to being artistic and having that artwork, you're very big into music. You have been composing music for actual Old Salt, like you have a soundtrack for it.
Yep. So far, I have one. I think it's a pretty good track, but one solid main theme track. And I've got a journal somewhere, not this one, I guess, but a journal that goes over like an hour and a half of music that I'm planning on writing. And then there's going to be a QR code in the rule book so that people can scan it. And then it'll go to either SoundCloud or YouTube or something, but it'll be a full list of like what your average experience would be on Old Salt from setup to teardown. And that way you could just like have your own environment. Almost like in D&D, where you're like, we got our tavern music. I've been loving D&D music lately, but essentially that vibe for an hour and a half.
That's
and
awesome.
we're all suckers like for extras in a game, like, you know, when they have a soundtrack.
I mean, you can get a soundtrack for Wingspan and listen to birds. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And Liz, I knew she would geek out anyway because she's really into this. She played instruments a lot growing up too, so she was really excited.
Liz, what'd you play?
Violin, trumpet, and piano.
Love it. Violin's my favorite.
Yeah, I did love it so much. I actually still have my violin and my trumpet, so
good.
I could probably blow some things and play some really out-of-tune strings at this point.
We had a drunken game night, and she was trumpeting.
My heart will go on.
My heart will go on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a good memory.
And you were terrified in the kitchen.
I was just...
What's happening?
Yeah. I made it through the song, though.
Hey,
So.
that's all anyone can ask.
Yeah.
So, you've also composed music for video games too, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're
So
huge video gamers also. There's no nerddom we're not in. What IP, what video game would you love to see as a board game that hasn't already been made? We just saw it was being made, so that's kind of exciting.
Wait, so what IP would I love to see into a board game?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, The Witcher just became a board game.
I know. We're very excited about that.
Very excited. That's huge. Goodness. Oh, you know what? It's Star Wars, but it would be Knights of the Old Republic Star Wars.
Oh.
That would be amazing.
That one. KOTOR. That is what I would love to see.
Take my money.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can see them; they might be cut off, but yeah, I've got
Quite a few.
take my money.
Like Star Wars, though, I made a D&D one-shot where you were a youngling on Coruscant when Execute Order 66 happens, and you're trying to escape the temple.
I like how these two aren't big Star Wars nerds, and I'm
Hey,
like,
I'm trying to be a
I've watched them all.
oh, it just hurts me when they say, I've watched them.
I appreciate that. I definitely do. I would recommend the Star Wars Clone Wars, the one that was on Cartoon Network and all that.
Yeah.
That's top shelf. That
Actually haven't-
quality story. Yeah, because you get to see some characters that you thought were dead. Not gonna spoil anything.
I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm going to move on. Because
You just don't want us to geek out about it anymore.
Yeah, I can talk about Star Wars forever.
So, you know, in terms of, speaking of video games, we've really been into games like the Second Dishonored or Disco Elysium, some that might have some, like, deception, things like that. Always obsessed with that. And one thing I really found with your game, Old Salt, was, like, when we played it, we were like, okay, we're not sure if this was ever meant as, like, a deception or negotiation game, but it kind of really feels like one.
Almost at the forefront. We spend most of our games. I mean, Liz tried to negotiate with the two of us so much.
Yeah, it was fun. It was amazing. It's like it's that tension and trying to get someone to do what you want them to do is so huge.
You're like texting them under the table, like, do this.
Yeah.
I'll back you up.
It feels like a main part of gameplay. Did you mean for that, or
Not even a little. No. I'm so glad that worked out for you guys, though. I've always been worried about 3-player games, just because one person could team up permanently with the other person, and there's not much you can do about that. But 3-player in any game is always tricky, unless if it's specifically designed for 3-player. But I'm really happy that the deception and all of that stuff kind of seeped out, because I didn't think it was going to be there, but I love that it is there.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite parts, is just BSing our way through alliances, making them, breaking them, trying to be kind of sadistically manipulative when it comes to, yeah, totally not gonna.
Yeah, and you have to break the alliances, otherwise you're giving the win to someone else, because
You can't have that.
it's like,
Personally attacked.
and you also, like, your rules aren't rigid. Like, you have what you would recommend for people, and then you have other ways that they can vary it throughout if they want this type of experience or that type of experience. So how did you come up with not having it super rigid and having that variability included in the box?
That's a good question. Definitely D&D inspired on that one. So like D&D, they're like, do you want to go pick up this book? Do you want to go over to the tavern? Do you want to go to the market? Do you want to go kill that orc over there? I wanted flexibility in Old Salt. There was a lot of pull on the early part where they're like, you need to have a regimented order. You have to do ships sailing first. You have to do firing second. You can seize after that. And I was like, no, that's the wrong direction. I want somebody to be like, I still have one tile of sail left. How can I use it after they've taken an island and shot somebody twice and sailed prior to that? Flexibility was huge for that, but that was inspired by D&D. Playtesting was tricky, but I think overall it was worth it for that core idea to stick.
It is a really amazing feel. Completely, totally love it.
Thanks.
I also feel like it will help bridge the gap between maybe non-gamers too, as well, by having that much variety.
Also, different types of gamers. So people who do for war games, people who do for strategy, they can really tweak it to have the experience that they love. So yeah, that's what it really hits. We have kind of varying degrees of likability for the type of game that it is, and it fits all of us perfectly, because I think we're able to have the experience we want while we play it.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly.
On that note, I am planning on having like a homebrew page on the rulebook, or not on, but in the rulebook, so it'll have all of the ideas that playtesters had that couldn't fit in the base game, but it's like solid ideas. So it's going to be like, here are ways you can flex the game in a certain way so you can really tailor it to your group. Like an example is like Pac-Man. you can go on the sides and it'll loop around to the other side of the board, or you can go up and then you can just come up on the bottom. Like, obviously that's not going to be in the base game because I really like just edges and getting cornered and pushed into a side without being able to sprint away forever. But
that makes sense.
But that's great. That constant, having all of that variability is just another thing that makes us love it. I mean, it makes us think it won't get stale because of that. And we're kind of hard on games that feel like they get stale after a while because when they have to compete with, I'm just looking around, hundreds of games.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition.
I mean, Liz's room looks like that, what you can see behind it, all the way around to the ceiling.
And actually there's less knickknacks and more games everywhere else.
I love it.
Just a really quick tangent. Another thing I really loved about the rule book, at least as it was when we received the prototype to try, was the section for notes. And I thought that was like maybe so cool. You could like kind of, if it was part of a D&D campaign or any other RPG, you could keep notes on it or notes on different things you want to try.
Plus one thing that we do anyway a lot of times is we'll just get like an index card and we'll write our own quick rules that we prefer, that we remember, that we always forget. And that's great for that too.
Perfect. Yeah.
So your campaign, it's launching tentatively or officially July 26th?
Officially, unless if we have like COVID round 2 or something like that. Or 12, round 12, I guguess.
Something.
Round indefinite at this point.
Yeah, it is like, that is what I'm gearing for. I have a couple other like side projects that are like pointing towards the 26th. So everything's going to coming to a culmination at that point. Yeah.
Nice. So is there anything about the Kickstarter that you're excited to talk about in particular? I mean, one thing that you've been doing, I've noticed on your Instagram, which we'll put a little thing up that has your Instagram and stuff on it too, is that you're giving people the option to choose to help decide like a flip side of a map or islands or things like that. So that's exciting.
One thing I'm really looking forward to on the Kickstarter is this thing called Riley's Quest. It's going to be part of tandem of that social activities thing, but essentially it's a 12-part quest where people will get a vote in the Kickstarter, like on their comments page, but they'll be like this or that. So like Riley has to go this way or that way, or like she has to decide this or that, or she takes this crew or she doesn't have a crew. And so they're going to be going along this story throughout the Kickstarter campaign. I'm really excited for that story to unfold because I've been fleshing that out. And I have one of the fans on our Discord. He's been helping me out, Juxtaposition or something like that. But Daniel's his name, but he's been helping out a lot. And I'm thrilled for Riley's Quest, especially because at the end we have a sweet reveal that's going to just be amazing.
Cool. That's a nice little extra. I think anything that gets people to interact is really smart.
Yeah,
sounds really fun too.
I'm excited. Thanks. It's Emma, my wife. She read it and she's not really like a gamer per se. She's like, "It was a great story." So,
awesome.
Well, when you can impress a non-gamer, that's the fun. I mean, we try to do it all the time with non-gamers. We get so excited over things.
Love it.
You have survived the grueling Q&A section, and all we have left for you is a ridiculous minigame.
I love it. I'm in.
This is your reward for putting up with this. It's obviously official also, so whatever happens, it's binding, and you have to.
Contractual. Yep, I'm on.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna give you like a kind of like a D&D personality quiz kind of thing. Simple, 3 questions. Your decisions will lead you to a faction that you will be including, obviously, in the game. Okay.
I love this.
Yeah. Okay, so Liz, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So, what very non-essential item would you want with you if you were stranded on a deserted island? Would it be a kazoo, Lucky Rabbit's foot, or a mood ring?
Oh boy. I'd probably go with the kazoo.
Oh.
Okay. Right. I feel that.
Yeah, I gotta.
It could be like a duck call, call some wild animals to you or something.
Yeah. Just play happy birthday to myself.
Yeah, I came up with. I'm excited. Yeah. Okay. So, what RPG archetype are you most drawn to? Mage, warrior, or rogue?
Okay, if I'm playing like Dragon Age, it would be the warrior, but I'm gonna go with the mage. I think that'd be awesome. Mage.
Okay, and Kitty.
And the last one is
The most important one.
obviously, which fictional character would you want as the captain of your ship? Okay, we've got Batman, Sterling Archer, Jar Jar Binks.
Okay, it's really two choices there, unless if you're saying Jar Jar is a Sith, which that's a whole can of worms right there. Okay, so Batman, he's so moody. If I had the mood ring on the island, I would throw it at Batman and say, wear this for a little bit so I can at least sense your what's going on. I would have to go with Sterling Archer. I think he could have a good time with some rum as like almost like what's the Pirates of the Caribbean guy?
Jack
Sparrow.
Yeah. Life on the rum gun type of situation.
Yeah.
I just have to say, you chose all three of mine. I am very excited that you have gotten the unicorns.
I love it.
Their abilities are that they can ram other boats with their horn figurehead.
Of course.
So the thing you nerfed for the other faction.
It'll work for them.
Yeah, it makes sense for them.
Obviously.
And player boats that get within 2 spaces of them are just dazzled by their beauty, and that boat loses the rest of its actions for the turn.
That's powerful. That's like the sirens almost.
Well,
these are the ones you missed also.
Yeah, if you want to hear the ones that were wrong, you could have ended up with the sirens, which what they could have done is they could sing a song that's just like an encouraging song that helps a trade wind come for you.
Oh, that's slick.
Right.
Or it can also
draw
people in and then
to crash
mess with them.
Islands,
crash
obstacles.
into anything.
Yes.
So that one was mine.
Those are sirens.
And then
obviously.
Lizzy.
I was the lizards, which was they could go over an island, like they could crawl onto the land and then go.
Heck yeah.
Go around, and I forget what the other one was.
The other one was that they can summon sea monsters.
Yeah, the Loch Ness Monster.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you could just trademark that and put it right in.
Well, we just added a little like brainstorming session on our Discord for activities, or not activities, abilities. So I'm looking for abilities. So I actually like these a lot, and they might be contractually binding because I'll probably use them.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Well, you can tell that we're big fans of the game when that's how much we geek out.
I love it. No, those are fantastic.
I do have to say just one more time, we honestly really do believe in the game, and that's why we're really obsessed with it, and we're taken by surprise. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just I'm sure war game after war game after war game, they look the same, they feel the same a lot of times, and it just feels different, presents itself differently.
Yeah, like transcends it into that and other things.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like just so many different types of mechanics that you wouldn't even expect to be in there. So I just think it's really cool, and we're really excited about it.
And I hope
So,
you
really
better not pass it by. If you guys see this, back the Kickstarter, because it is an awesome game.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys for just like believing in me and the project so much, because there have been days where I'm like, imposter syndrome, or like I'm just like, wow, this is not going to pan out. Where am I going? And then I'm like, LDG really loves this game, and you guys have like been that heart lift more than a few times.
Right there, LDG believes in it.
I appreciate you guys, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tim. We really appreciated taking up all afternoon.
Thanks for having me. This is a great way to kick off full-time board game.
Yes.
Exactly. It's your transition day, right?
It is. Last day of piano teaching. First day of full-time board game developer, publisher, all of it.
So exciting.
We christened it with a bang.
Yeah, and we wish you the best of luck, and I hope that it is the best time of your life.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So we're excited. So can't wait to update it, and you'll see other stuff come up from us.
Yeah, we have lots of videos,
fresh thoughts, all kinds of stuff. So
I'm excited. Awesome.
Well, thanks
guys.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
We're going to wrangle you for a gameplay soon.
Yes.
I love it. All right. Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you find value in our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let a family or friend member know that we exist. Help us spread our channel and bring remote gaming to a table near you. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Have you figured out the flip system for
The
the...
master.
Because last time we talked,
Yeah.
we were kind of excited about that.
Well, that was actually the thing. So it might not have worked for you guys because you had the camera up top. But originally, the Mast system, it was like light side on top and then dark side on the bottom. So then you would like flip it. So that was already in place. But then we had a patch where we're only moving 3 ships at a time, which also prevents analysis by paralysis, which has helped immensely. It's cut down the game time by about 15%. So I'm always happy about that. So with only 3 moving, we don't have to worry too much about, hey, you moved that ship. No, you didn't. All that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
I just realized I forgot to ask that earlier, so...